Hello everyone and welcome to Beginner's Code, a place for you to learn with me as I dive deeper into the coding world. Before I start, this video is brought to you by SiteGround. If you're looking for a hosting service that is fast, reliable and has great customer service, please do check out the link in the description below. This is an affiliate link, so if you do end up being a SiteGround customer through my link, I will receive a little and this will be extremely beneficial for the channel. Or if you're wanting to learn more about Python, then make sure you check out my website, Instagram or GitHub for projects. The links for these will all be in the descriptions below, so please do check them out. Also, don't forget to subscribe to see more videos from me as I teach you through the basics. Today we are going to be looking at methods and functions and what the difference is between them and how to create our own. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just have a little look at methods and functions. So we have already come across a lot of different methods. There are methods that are associated to strings, so .split, if I type this up here, .split or .join, .upper, .lower, and then we also have strings, we also have methods that are associated with lists, such as .pop, .remove, .append. And you'll notice that all of these methods have a dot at the beginning. Now this is because when we create an object, so for example, if I create a variable and I'll just call it object, actually, I'll call it obj and make it equal to a string. So this object that we're creating here is a class of a string. So if we were to actually print the type of this object, I will just comment all these out, sorry. And then if I run this, down here we get class of string. So this means that the object that we have just created, or the variable we have just created, has been assigned the data type of string. Now, each different class has its own methods that are incorporated inside of the class, and they are inherited only by a specific variable or specific class type. So we can use obviously .pop for lists or .split for strings, but we can also use things that are called functions. And we do have a couple of functions that we have already come across, such as the input function or the print function. Now, these functions are created and they don't need to be attached to a variable. So as with methods, you'll notice that it will have followed object.method and then a parameter. Whereas with functions, it is just function and then parameter. So these are this is the clear distinction between the two. One is a lot more related to object-oriented programming, and functions is a way of basically just creating a small piece of code that we can then reuse over and over and over again. And this will help us with the dry principle, the do not repeat yourself. Dry is a principle that coders live by. It basically allows you to speed up your program and speed up the typing of your program by using functions and reusing them over and over again, rather than repeating the code that you're actually typing. So to start with, what we can do is we can create our own function, and this can be done just by using the def keyword. So def, and then we can give it a name. So for example, it could just be function, and then we give it a set of parameters or a set of parentheses which will hold the parameters, and then a colon at the end, and this basically defines or declares the end of the function. So next, if you press enter, you'll notice that it has already indented either 4 spaces or a tab, just like when we use if statements or while loops or for loops. And now whatever we put inside of this function, will be associated to the function. So for example, I could just put in print hello, and then down here we can call the function just like you would with any other function. So we can call its name and then put parentheses at the end. And then if I run this, we get hello back down here. And that's because this function is calling the print function and it's printing hello. So the call of this function is actually executing the code that is within this code block here. So we can also accept parameters. So there are a couple of things that you need to know. When you're creating a function, inside the parentheses we can ask for a data type, and it doesn't specifically matter which one it is when you're asking. So for example, if I did def squared and then I put in a parameter here of num, this basically requires the function call to have a data type inputted into the parentheses when it's called, otherwise it will throw an error. So what we can then do here is reference the variable name, and we can say times it by 2. So we can then print out the variable times by 2. Actually, I'll do it to the power of 2. And then if we were to call it, so squared, and then I pass in 4, we can run this and we get 16 back, because 4 is passed into this function here, and then it is used here or referenced here as 4 to the power of 2, which would return 16. So we can also pass in strings or lists or dictionaries. We can pass in whatever kind of data type we want, but we do obviously need to be careful, because if I was to actually get this back, if I was to pass in down here the string of hello, we would get back an error, because the mathematical operation that is done in here doesn't allow for strings to be raised to the power of something. So now what we can look at is passing in strings. So if I was to if I wanted to change everything to uppercase, so for example, if we're using more than one word to reference the function name, we can use an underscore. And then if I pass in the word, so this will just require there to be some kind of data passed in when the function is called. So if I then do word dot upper, and then just for example, uppercase, and I will type in hello, and then run this, we get back hello all in uppercase. Now this is exactly the same as just doing word equals hello and then word dot upper. That is exactly the same as just doing that, but this will actually allow you to see how it is created. So when we are making our functions, we can pass in whatever kind of data type we want, and we can reference the data type inside by doing whatever methods we wanted to on it, and then we can either output or we can return something. And I will get onto returning in a later video, but for now we can also give a function a default value. So if I wanted to use the squared again, and I made a variable or a parameter that had a default value of 2, then what we can do now is if I was to square it, so print num to the power of 2. Now what we can do down here is we can call it just without the parameter inside or the argument inside, and that's because the parameter already has a default value of 2. If there isn't one supplied, then it will automatically use the number 2 that is given as a default up here. So if I run this, we get back 4. But if I then passed in, say, 5, and ran this, we get 25, and that's because the number that's passed in the function call overwrites the default value. That's all for today's video. Hopefully this has helped your understanding of how we can create and use our own functions. If there's anything you'd like me to cover further, please don't hesitate in reaching out to me by dropping a comment below on Instagram or through my website. Stay tuned, as in my next video I will be looking at how to create a text-based game. If you liked what we've been through today and you want to learn more, please drop a like and subscribe to my channel to keep up to date. Thank you, and see you next time.